The desk is a bit more cluttered than usual. Pusheen still on watch, of course, but this is the Dockcase Smart USB-C Hub 10-in-1. So you get a lot of functionality and expandability here in a very small package. We'll talk about it. Dockcase said they want to send this out to review. I said absolutely. Full disclosure, the Kickstarter link in the description does directly help the channel, so I just want to point that out, and I appreciate that if you use it. But when I saw the devices that this supported, plus the functionality that it had, for the value, the money that they're charging, I said absolutely, because I'm really impressed by it, and it is useful, especially since you can see where it's plugged in. So let's talk about the devices that you could use it with. It'll support your Steam Deck, it'll support your Nintendo Switch, your iPad, tablet, which is good, iPads especially, to add a little expandability there. It'll support your PC, which is natural. You can see the USB-C to USB-C cord here. But it'll also support your Mac, which if you know, if you have any Mac portables from the last few years, depending on the model, they've got a little bit better with the MacBook Pro. But for the most part, if you have the Air like I have here, the Air M2, if you have an older MacBook Pro, if you have the MacBook Air M1, Apple's a little stingy with the ports. So a 10-in-1 or a USB-C hub is definitely something that you're going to be in the market for to give your MacBook a little bit more expandability and some usefulness to it. So that's why I'm going to focus here on my M2, because this is how I use it and the kind of value that I see with that. Because then let's just talk about the price, because it leads into my next point nicely. $119 right now on the pre-order campaign that they have through Kickstarter. $119 for this. And when you go through it, you're going to see it's worth it. But then when you think about what Apple has on their website, I wanted a little expandability for my MacBook. So I bought this guy. This has the USB-C pass-through, because it's taking up a USB-C port, one of my two on my MacBook Air. Full HDMI for a second display, and then just a USB-A port here. $70 for this. $70 for those three ports on this. But it comes in that nice Apple style, so that's what you're paying for, I guess. This is 10 ports. Physical Ethernet. All the rest of it. Display port if I want it. Micro SD card and full SD card expandability if I want it down the line for $119 right now. Plus it's nice build, good construction, metal. It feels good in the hand. It's going to hold up. So that's something that you got to look at when you're talking about the usual peripherals that you're going to get for something like your MacBook Air versus something like the Dockcase. So let's plug it in and get it working. So I go right here. I plug it in, and right away you're going to see the display booting up. It has a 1-inch display that gives it some additional functionality. We're going to zoom in on the display here. So you're going to see a bunch of things here with power all the way down the line, HDMI, the display port, and then the different other ports that it has, and the USB-C and the other ports. It's going to show when those are plugged in. So let's go around the horn here and show exactly what it has. So you're getting 10 gigabits per second on your USB 3.2, USB-C, and USB-A. Then you have a regular USB, I believe it's 2.0, or whatever the standard is now. Then you've got your full SD card and micro SD card. And I got to say, that's pretty useful. Because if you're a content creator, number one, you're limited on most of these laptops anyway. Because if they don't have an SD card, you're out of luck. But not having to walk around with an adapter for your micro SD cards for your files, or being able to fit the full card right from your camera, is a useful thing to have. I love that the Dockcase has that right, and it has the expandability for both. And it is UHS 2 on those, so you're getting that speed. Then you have gigabit Ethernet, full internet. It's great. Let me tell you something. That saved me. We went to Japan, and the Wi-Fi in the hotel was suspect at best. So if you're having trouble with the connections or whatever, but it has one of those desks where you can pull out the Ethernet cord and plug it in, you have that option there, and you could use physical Ethernet on your laptop that doesn't support it. So that, to me, is definitely a bonus. Then you have the different port. Then you have another USB-A port here. You have your display port, and then you have your HDMI. I'm just going to go, it has different listings here. I'm going to go with what's on the site itself. So it's a single display. It could do 8K 30. It could do dual displays of 4K 60. So keep that in mind. So that's for the display port and the HDMI. And then you have another USB-C port, which has power pass-through up to 100 watts. And what's great about that is when you plug that in, if you have the older MacBook that would charge through USB-C, you can plug it in there and not lose a port and not lose that power. And it'll show you when you plug that in what the rate things are charging at, which is pretty cool. So let's get this plugged in. You'll see why it's smart. So we'll plug in the SD card. That's not so fancy. You have that. You see it immediately lights up and shows when there's data transfer. It just popped up on my MacBook Air over here. So I have full access to that SD card, and you can see when it's loaded up. And then you have another icon for the micro SD. You can see the Ethernet cord here, Ethernet power symbol here. If you plug that in, what you're going to get is you're going to get a relative signal strength and basically your speed on this little bar here like you would your cell phone or your 5G settings. What I want to do is I want to plug in this HDMI cord here, because then you're going to see how smart it really is. It's going to check, it's going to take a second, and bam. It's a Vizio 23-inch 1080p display running at 60 hertz, and it has that here, and it pulls it right up. I just plugged that in. There's no presettings. It'll just plug it in, set it up, and it's ready to go as an external display. Really nice. I love that functionality. I love the fact that it's giving me the power readings and everything at a glance here, so I can know exactly what's going on any of the items that I have plugged in. There is a way to navigate the menu. It's hard to see here, but there's a little physical button that you can hold down, and it'll give you some more granular options with your peripherals. So I'm going to hold this down, HDMI, I'm going to let go, and then it's going to bring me into the external display that I just hooked up. So it has stabilization mode. It has all kinds of things that you could put in there. But you could go through, and then if you don't touch anything for a second, it comes back out. The other thing that it shows, I don't know if we'll get to the point, but once it'll show the actual temperature of what's going on. So you'll see 41C or 40C up here in the upper left. And I love that it's just keeping control of everything, because you can see the vent here. You can see the open design. This was meant for thermals. So it was meant to just keep everything cool as it's charging. You got a lot of devices going through this. You got a lot of power going through this. So it's nice that they remembered the thermals and keep track of that as you're using it, so you can keep an eye on it, make sure nothing is getting out of whack. Personally, for $119, I love it. Just for the MacBook functionality alone. Switch stuff is important. Steam Deck stuff is important. You know, Switch is if you're going to get pass-through power and you can get some expandability there and physical Ethernet, to me, that makes a world of difference on that, especially if you're doing mobile gaming, or not mobile gaming, but you're doing multiplayer gaming, stuff where latency matters. That physical Ethernet is going to matter, especially on your laptop too. Like I said, unreliable connections. You're doing multiplayer gaming, light multiplayer gaming. You're not doing a lot on your laptop, but things like that, you're going to benefit from the physical Ethernet, and then all the other ports that come with it, especially when something like a MacBook Air, 2 USB-C ports can turn into this in a hurry with your $119. It's light to take with you. It's got grips on the bottom, which is nice, so it's not going to slide around the desk. 130 grams. 130 grams. And we're going to zoom back out so you can see it in comparison to something like, here's my S23 Ultra. And look at that. So it's a compact device. It's a light device. It has the functionality of the display, so you can see what's going on. And all those ports, it's hard to go wrong if you can get it for the Kickstarter price. Click the link in the description. 119 bucks on this. I think it goes up to 150 after that. So definitely take advantage, especially when the competition is selling things like this for 70 bucks. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.